How society judges the rich versus the poor, the price tag on respect. Have you ever noticed something strange? Woe people can walk into the exact same place, say the exact same words, have the exact same manners, and yet they'll be treated completely differently. Not because one is kinder, not because one is smarter, but because one looks rich and the other doesn't. The uncomfortable truth is that before we hear someone's voice, before we learn their name, before we know their story, many of us have already decided how much respect they deserve. It's a silent judgment, one that happens in seconds. And the most disturbing part? Most people don't even realize they're doing it. Today, we're going to uncover why society places such a high value on wealth, what psychology says about it, and why this invisible habit affects every one of us, even if we believe we're fair. But before we go any further, let me tell you a story. The suit that changed everything a few years ago, social researchers wanted to answer a simple question. Does appearance really change how strangers treat us? So they carried out different social experiments in public places around the world. In one version, the same person walked through a busy city wearing expensive business clothes, polished shoes, and a luxury-looking watch. People held doors open. Strangers smiled. Some even offered help without being asked. A few days later, the same person returned to the same streets. Same face. Same voice. Same personality. The only difference? This time, they wore worn-out clothes that made them appear poor. Suddenly, people avoided eye contact. Some crossed the street. Others ignored requests for simple directions. Nothing about the person had changed. Only the clothes had. Yet society reacted as if they were looking at a completely different human being. That raises a difficult question. If respect disappears the moment expensive clothes disappear, was that respect ever real? Your brain judges before you do now. You might be thinking, I would never judge someone like that. Maybe you're right. But psychology says something fascinating. Researchers have found that our brains begin forming first impressions in an incredibly short amount of time, sometimes within a fraction of a second. Long before logic has a chance to speak, our subconscious is already making guesses. Is this person successful? Can I trust them? Do they have status? It's an ancient survival shortcut. Thousands of years ago, humans had to make quick decisions about strangers to stay alive. But today's world is different. Instead of judging danger, we judge shoes, phones, cars, clothes, social status. Our brains are still using an old survival system in a completely different world. And sometimes, that system gets it terribly wrong. The halo effect, the illusion we all fall for. Psychologists even have a name for this. It's called the halo effect. Here's how it works. When we notice one positive quality about someone, like attractive clothing, confidence, or signs of wealth, we unconsciously assume they must have many other positive qualities too. We think they're smarter, more capable, more honest, more successful, even when we have absolutely no evidence. Think about it. A man steps out of an expensive car wearing a tailored suit. Without realizing it, many people immediately assume he must own a business. He knows what he's doing. He's successful. Now picture another man wearing simple clothes, waiting at a bus stop. He could be a brilliant scientist, a teacher, or someone who has spent his entire life helping others. But because he doesn't look wealthy, many people never give him the benefit of the doubt. The strange part is, neither man has spoken a single word. Yet a story has already been written about both of them, and that story exists only inside our heads. The experiment that shocked researchers, there's another famous pattern researchers have noticed. People are more likely to trust someone who appears wealthy, even when both people are complete strangers. Think about how often this happens. If a well-dressed businessman says, "This investment is a great opportunity," many people listen carefully. But if the exact same advice comes from someone who looks poor, it suddenly sounds less convincing. The information didn't change, only the appearance of the person delivering it changed. That should make all of us uncomfortable, because it means we're often evaluating the messenger instead of the message. The restaurant story picture a luxury restaurant on a busy Friday night. Crystal glasses, elegant lighting, expensive suits, people celebrating success. Now imagine an elderly man quietly walking through the entrance, wearing faded clothes and old shoes. The room grows quiet for a moment. Some guests glance at him and quickly look away. A waiter approaches, but not with the warm smile given to everyone else. Instead, there's hesitation, almost suspicion. Without saying a word, the room has already reached its verdict. He probably doesn't belong here. But here's the twist. What if that man had spent 40 years building a successful company? What if he simply chose comfort over fashion? Would that change who he is? Of course not. The only thing that changed was the story people invented after seeing his clothes. And maybe that's the biggest problem with judging others. We don't judge reality. We judge the stories we create inside our own minds. The hidden cost of looking poor for someone born into poverty, this judgment isn't something they experience once, it's something they carry every single day. Some people walk into job interviews already knowing they'll be judged by their shoes before their skills. Some avoid entering expensive stores because they fear being watched. Others stop dreaming altogether because society has convinced them that success has a certain look. Imagine carrying that invisible weight every day, not because of who you are, but because of how others see you. And the saddest part? Many of those people are never given the chance to prove everyone wrong, because first impressions often become final judgments. But this story doesn't end here, because what happens next reveals something even more disturbing. Society doesn't just judge poor people. It actually rewards people who merely look rich, even when the reality is completely different. And that's where things become truly dangerous. Because once society starts rewarding people simply for looking wealthy, something unexpected happens. People begin chasing the appearance of success instead of success itself. Think about it. How many times have you seen someone buying the latest phone, wearing designer clothes, or driving a luxury car they can barely afford? Is it always because they need those things? Not necessarily. Sometimes they're buying something far more expensive than a phone or a car. They're buying acceptance. They're buying respect. They're buying the feeling that people will finally take them seriously. Psychologists even have a term for this behavior. It's known as conspicuous consumption, buying expensive things not just for their usefulness, but to signal status. Studies have shown that in many situations, people use visible symbols of wealth to influence how others perceive them. When respect becomes linked to appearance, appearance becomes an investment. And that's a dangerous game. The business card that changed nothing, except people's minds imagined two people walking into a meeting. Both have the same education, the same experience, the same ideas. The only difference is that one arrives wearing a tailored suit and an expensive watch, while the other wears simple clothes and carries an old backpack. Who do you think people expect to lead the meeting? Who do they expect to be more competent? Research into first impressions repeatedly shows that appearance can shape expectations long before a person speaks. It's not proof that the better-dressed person is more capable, but our brains often act as if it is. That's the trap. Confidence is often confused with competence. Status is confused with intelligence. Wealth is confused with wisdom. And sometimes those assumptions are completely wrong. The billionaire who didn't look like one of the most famous examples is Steve Jobs. When people think of billionaires, they often imagine luxury suits and flashy lifestyles. But Steve Jobs became known for something completely different. A simple black turtleneck. Blue jeans. Sneakers. Nothing about that outfit screamed one of the world's most influential business leaders. Yet his ideas transformed entire industries. His clothes didn't make him a genius. His work did. History reminds us again and again that appearance is a poor measure of potential. And yet, we continue judging books by their covers. The weight that poor people carry now, let's look at the other side. Imagine applying for 10 jobs, being rejected over and over, watching people speak politely to the customer wearing a suit, but barely acknowledging you. Slowly, something changes. Not outside, inside. You begin questioning your own worth. Psychologists have found that repeated experiences of prejudice and social exclusion can affect confidence, motivation, and even future opportunities. When people constantly receive the message, "You don't belong," they may eventually start believing it themselves. And that's one of the cruelest consequences of social judgment. It doesn't just change how others see you. Sometimes it changes how you see yourself. But rich people are judged too now. Before we conclude that only poor people face unfair treatment, there's another side to this story. Wealth also comes with stereotypes. People often assume that every rich person is arrogant, that they inherited everything, that they don't understand hardship, or that money automatically makes them selfish. But life isn't that simple. Some wealthy people built everything from nothing. Some inherited wealth, but use it generously. Some struggle with loneliness because people constantly question whether friendships are genuine. Judging a wealthy person simply because they're wealthy is still prejudice. It's the same mistake, just wearing different clothes. Whether someone is poor or rich, judging them before knowing their story can never be fair. The question we rarely ask here is something worth thinking about. If tomorrow you lost everything, your car, your house, your expensive clothes, your bank account, would you still be the same person? Of course you would. Your kindness wouldn't disappear. Your memories wouldn't disappear. Your values wouldn't disappear. So why do we treat money as if it changes a person's value? Money changes comfort. It changes opportunities. Sometimes it changes lifestyle. But it doesn't automatically change character. Character is built through choices, not purchases. A story that says it all there is an old story that has been shared in many cultures for generations. A respected scholar was invited to a grand dinner. He arrived wearing ordinary clothes. The hosts barely noticed him and treated him like an unimportant guest. So he quietly went home, changed into an expensive robe, and returned. This time, everyone rushed to welcome him. They gave him the best seat, the finest food, the greatest respect. When the meal was served, the scholar began placing food onto the sleeves of his robe. The confused guests asked, "What are you doing?" He smiled and replied, "If you're respecting my clothes more than me, then perhaps my clothes should be the ones eating this meal." Whether every detail of this story happened exactly as told isn't the point. The lesson has survived for centuries because it reveals a truth about human nature. Too often, we honor the outfit instead of the person wearing it. The real wealth at the end of life, nobody remembers how expensive your watch was. Nobody remembers the brand of your shoes. Nobody remembers the model of your phone. But people do remember something else. Who stood beside them during difficult times? Who treated strangers with kindness? Who kept their promises? Who showed respect even when there was nothing to gain? Those are the things that outlive money. Those are the things that build a legacy. Maybe the biggest problem isn't that some people are rich and others are poor. The real problem is that we've started confusing net worth with human worth. The moment we do that, we stop seeing people. We start seeing price tags. The next time you meet someone, don't let their clothes introduce them. Don't let their car tell you their story. Don't let their bank balance decide how much respect they deserve. Ask questions. Listen, give people a chance. Because behind every face is a story you cannot see. And sometimes, the person with the smallest wallet carries the biggest heart. If this video made you think differently even for a moment, share it with someone who believes respect should never depend on wealth. And if you enjoy documentaries that challenge the way we see the world, follow this channel. Because sometimes, the most valuable thing you can gain isn't money, it's a new perspective.